Good morning. I'm Christine Romas in for Savannah today.
Good to have you with us on a Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. We're going to begin with the manhunt for the gunman who shot and killed the CEO of UnitedHealthcare. New York City police released these photos of someone they are calling a person of interest in connection to the death of Brian Thompson.
Meanwhile, police are also looking into whether the gunman paid in cash and used a fake ID to rent a room at this hostel on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. That's according to 2 law enforcement officials briefed on this investigation. And 3 senior law enforcement officials tell NBC News they believe the shooter may have traveled to New York from Atlanta last month by bus. Investigators say the gunman bought a water bottle and 2 protein bars from a nearby Starbucks before that shooting, but then discarded those items. For more, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo in New York. And Stephen, start with those new images of the person of interest. What do we know about them, and what other clues is the NYPD looking at?
Yeah, Joe, Christine, those really are the biggest developments of the case that we heard yesterday. Police searching that hostel on the Upper West Side, interviewing people and getting those images from video surveillance and releasing them where we can see this person of interest's full face, much different than the photos of a person they described as a suspect that they released, showing him masked up at a Starbucks they released those on Wednesday. Investigators also looking at the physical evidence which they obtained from this area outside the Hilton in Midtown Manhattan, those shell casings with writing on them, along with the water bottle and protein bars you mentioned from this area. We know police are also going to private businesses and getting video clips or trying to get video clips of this person of interest, the suspect. And you mentioned the Greyhound bus that came from Atlanta. That's one of the other things that officers are now looking at, something that could provide a name. Now, more than 48 hours since this shooting happened, so no name of a potential shooter has been released.
Yeah, Stephen, I want to ask you more about something you just mentioned, how we're learning more about where the suspect may have traveled from. What else can you tell us, and how are investigators saying that could work into the investigation?
Yeah, Joe, potentially that Greyhound bus that investigators are saying came from Atlanta. There were, of course, stops along the route from a route that long, bringing them up to the northeast. So it's not clear exactly if investigators believe this shooter may have come from Atlanta or one of those stops. But that passenger manifest list could obviously have a name on it, something that investigators are definitely looking into. But the timeline that we get from that information shows that the shooter may have shown up to 10 days before the shooting actually happened. And in a city the size of New York, with all of the cameras, that could leave an even larger digital footprint as well, something that investigators could use to hopefully identify that gunman.
Hey, Stephen, in the aftermath of this murder, we have seen a lot of support from people expressing sympathy for the shooter and anger at insurance companies. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's troubling to see that almost immediately after the shooting. There were memes that were being posted, but there's just a lot of outrage against the industry altogether for denied claims and all the trouble that, people have with the health insurance industry. And for some reason, people have decided to take it out or to use this as to show their frustration in this. Of course, you have to keep in mind that this Brian Thompson had children, had a family. Of course, difficult to imagine them looking at those memes that are being posted, but it is a sign of the frustration of the industry writ large, guys.
All right. Stephen Romo. Stephen, thank you so much. This morning, 2 kindergartners are in critical but stable condition in California after a gunman opened fire at their school. Police say they think the suspected shooter targeted the school over its religious affiliation. They also say he had a history of mental illness. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has the latest on that investigation.
In Northern California, the Butte County Sheriff now identified the 2 kindergarteners shot at their school Wednesday as 5-year-old Elias Wolford and 6-year-old Roman Mendez. Both remain in critical condition.
The fact that they are currently still with us, I think, is a miracle.
The sheriff also identified the suspect as 56-year-old Glenn Liddon, found dead after allegedly turning a gun on himself.
He has a lengthy criminal history and history of mental health issues.
Shots fired, 27 Cox Lane between Highway 70 and Simpson Road.
According to the sheriff, Liddon met with the Feather River Adventist school principal about enrolling his grandson, but used an alias.
did not have a grandson. So it appears to us that that story was a ruse to set up an appointment so that he could gain access to the campus.
The sheriff sharing these photos from after that meeting as the attack unfolded.
I looked back and I saw a shadow with a gun, so I told most people to run even faster.
The sheriff says Liddon attended a different Seventh-day Adventist school himself. Writings believed to be Liddon's that are part of the investigation discuss the religious group and Middle East issues.
There were writings that we believe he authored, and we were able to obtain those writings.
Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
All right, now to the latest on the Trump transition. The president-elect's defense secretary pick, Pete Hegseth, is keeping his hat in the ring despite failing to secure support from at least a handful of Republican senators. That's according to a Trump transition official who spoke with NBC News. Hegseth has now finished meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill, but plans to return next week. Over the past few days, he defended himself against allegations of excessive drinking, as well as a sexual assault claim, which he says was consensual. No charges were filed in that incident, which was investigated by police, and Hegseth later paid his accuser an undisclosed sum. Now, some Republicans, like Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, a sexual violence survivor, say they remain undecided.
I think for a number of our senators, they want to make sure that any allegations have been cleared, and that's why we have to have a very thorough vetting process.
All this as Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence, is now facing pushback from former members of the agency she has been tapped to lead. For more on all of this, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafa. Ali, let's start with Pete Hegseth. When President-elect Trump's Attorney General pick Matt Gaetz was under scrutiny for his behavior, Mr. Trump himself was making phone calls to senators on his behalf. Now, this time around, are we seeing any of that same kind of effort for Hegseth from Mar-a-Lago? And where is he now in this process?
Yeah, Christine, good morning. Well, Hegseth held a whole other round of meetings with these senators yesterday as he tries to clear his path towards a Senate confirmation. But as far as the direct outreach from Trump to these Republican senators, we are not seeing the same sort of communication that we were seeing when Matt Gaetz was in the running for Attorney General. This is really an effort being led by Hegseth himself, as well as members of his family. He's appeared with his wife in several of these meetings with senators, and his mother has even been on Fox News defending this pick. And Hegseth, as you mentioned, says he plans to be back on the Hill next week to meet with those still skeptical Republican senators. But it's important to remember here that there's still a very long road ahead. Several of these Republican senators are even caveating this by saying exactly that. They're expressing this openness to meeting with Hegseth, saying that they're having constructive and positive conversation with him, but none of them are coming out and saying that they are an absolute 100% yes on Hegseth yet. They're saying that still so much has to happen before he could be confirmed by the Senate. Of course, that all-important Senate Armed Services Committee hearing where an FBI background check will have to be completed before that. And Hegseth's lawyer is saying that his team has received those documents to be able to go forward with that background check. And he says that Hegseth is expected to complete those over the weekend, Christine.
Let's talk about the pick for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Who are the people who are speaking out against her nomination, and what concerns are they raising?
Yeah, NBC has obtained a letter signed by nearly 100 former national security officials in which they criticize President-elect Trump's pick of Tulsi Gabbard to lead the country's intelligence community. And these officials urge the Senate to, quote, carefully evaluate whether Gabbard is equipped for this position. And they call for closed-door Senate confirmation hearings to see whether there's any government information on the former Hawaii Congresswoman. And in this letter, they say, quote, several of Ms. Gabbard's past actions call into question her ability to deliver unbiased intelligence briefings to the president, Congress, and to the entire national security apparatus. And they bring up a specific example of her meetings in 2017, the surprise meeting that she had with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. And they say that after that, she aligned herself with Syrian as well as Russian officials. Now, a Tulsi Gabbard spokesperson speaking through the Trump transition team is responding to this in a statement saying in part, quote, these intel officials continue to use classification as a partisan weapon to smear and imply things about their political enemy without putting the facts out, Christine.
And the president-elect is really continuing to announce names for additional leadership positions at all the various federal agencies. What are some of the new names that stand out to you?
Yeah, he unveiled several more picks overnight, including his choice to lead Customs and Border Patrol, obviously an agency that's going to carry out his mission and his goals for the U.S.-Mexico border, as well as the U.S.-Canada border. And he picked Rodney Scott, a former chief of the U.S. Border Patrol who served under both the Trump and Biden administrations. He also overnight announced that he was going to pick former Georgia Senator David Perdue to be U.S. ambassador to China, and Perdue has spent most of his 40-year-long corporate career before he was a senator in China, also doing business in other parts of Asia as well. So Trump definitely leaning on him to lead the relations between the two largest economies in the world, the U.S. and China, Christine.
All right, Ali Rafa, thank you so much, Ali. Today, President-elect Trump will sit down for an exclusive interview with NBC News Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker. It is his first network interview since winning the 2024 election. We will be releasing highlights throughout the weekend, and you can watch the full interview on Meet the Press Sunday morning on NBC News.
A win on Capitol Hill for former Congressman and one-time Attorney General hopeful Matt Gaetz. House lawmakers voted Thursday against releasing an ethics committee report on a years-long investigation into the Florida Republican. Gaetz has been dogged by allegations he engaged in illicit drug use and sexual misconduct with a 17-year-old girl. He has denied those allegations. For more, let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles. Ryan, good morning. So just walk us through these latest developments, this vote on not releasing the report.
Yeah, what happened yesterday, Joe, was that the two different Democratic congressmen put what are called privileged resolutions on the floor that would force the House Ethics Committee to release that report. But Republicans effectively blocked that from taking place by just referring the report and the release of the report back to the Ethics Committee. And the Ethics Committee did meet yesterday. They did not resolve the future of this ethics report, whether or not it would ever be released. They said that they're just going to continue that conversation. So as it stands right now, that ethics report is not expected to see the light of day, especially because Matt Gaetz is no longer a congressman or not someone being considered for a position in the Trump administration, Joe.
So, Ryan, is there a way down the road it could end up being released? I mean, what's next?
I think it's very unlikely at this point. The only way that this dynamic could possibly change is if Donald Trump did decide to appoint Matt Gaetz to another position in his administration, even one that perhaps did not require Senate confirmation. Then you could make an argument that the report should be released so that the president is aware of this information before he appoints him to that post. But there does not really seem to be a lot of energy amongst House Republicans to take on that political battle, especially because Gaetz is someone who remains close to Trump, even though he is no longer his pick for Attorney General. So as it stands right now, we likely won't see this report anytime soon. The only other dynamic that could change is in 2 years, when we have another election, if Democrats take control of the House, perhaps they release the report then. But it's unlikely that far down the road that this will still be a very relevant issue.
Ryan, let's talk about another headline on Capitol Hill on Thursday. The heads of President-elect Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, we're talking about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, they met with congressional Republicans talking about ways they could slash federal spending. What do we know about those meetings?
Well, we know they were brainstorming sessions, is how they were described to us. They were all behind closed doors. It was basically just Ramaswamy and Musk standing in front of a group of both Republican senators and House members, and then just throwing out ideas and talking about ways that they could reform government and cut spending. This duo of Ramaswamy and Elon Musk have pledged to slash government spending in a major way. Musk said during the campaign that he sees as many as $2 trillion worth of cuts to the federal budget. Well, they're never going to be able to do that without the support of Congress. And this was their first step in trying to win members of Congress over. They certainly have enough support amongst Republicans to at least do some significant cuts to the federal budget. The issue will be that any of that will require bipartisan support, and Democrats have made it clear they're not going to touch any of the major entitlement programs like Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. Joe.
All right. Ryan Nobles. Ryan, thank you so much.
All right, California Governor Gavin Newsom has issued a state of emergency after a major earthquake hit off the coast Thursday. This surveillance camera video showing the violent shaking from the magnitude 7.0 quake. It hit yesterday morning right up near the Oregon border. It prompted a temporary tsunami warning as officials warned people to stay away from the beach and to seek higher ground. Now, this morning, the cleanup continues at places like this hotel in Ferndale, where the shaking sent bottles, look at that, flying from behind the bar.
On the other side of the country, another powerful winter storm is bringing more lake-effect snow with strong winds sweeping across the Northeast. The heavy snow, more than 5 feet deep in some places, is creating concerns that roofs could start collapsing, and it's prompting folks to start shoveling. The National Weather Service says western Pennsylvania could get up to 18 more inches of snow. Blizzard warnings remain in effect through Saturday.
This morning, millions are once again under winter alerts from the Great Lakes to the Northeast.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman's tracking the wintry weather for us. Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning to you. It is Friday, but that lake effect snow is ongoing. We've been dealing with this on and off across this region for about a week now, and we've got more snow on the way for folks across the Great Lakes. That wind, it's just, again, unrelenting. It's going to be cold wind coming across those warm lakes. And as you know, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen that kind of ramp up the snow downwind, and that's exactly where those winter alerts currently stand. So places like Erie, stretching to Lock Haven, we've got Oswego, Watertown, all included in those winter alerts this morning. It's a lot less expansive than it has been over the past 24 hours. So we've seen some of those winter alerts expire, but a lot of those downwind of the lakes, those aren't going to change here, at least for the next 24 hours. And you can see why. We've got more snow on the way. Those heavy snow bands are going to set up just east of the lakes, both Erie and Ontario. And we'll see additional snowfall on top of the really kind of ample amounts that we've already received in those areas. On top of that, we've got another system that's going to develop and then work into the Great Lakes here over the next 24 hours. This is a look at tomorrow afternoon and into the evening hours. That's where we'll start to see some of that snow working into parts of upstate New York and interior areas of New England. This is going to bring us some of that steady snow for that region. Also, it'll make it a little bit difficult for some travel across places across the Great Lakes, as well as the Northeast. But notice the snowfall totals aren't quite as impressive the farther you get away from the lakes. Still, folks there, you're going to have to pick up maybe another 6 inches or so in some spots and up to a foot. Places like Watertown and Point South, you could see another good round of snow. Erie as well. Elsewhere, I think 1 inch, 2 inches, maybe 3 inches in some spots. None of that is going to reach closer to the coast where it's a little warmer. Meanwhile, speaking of the opposite of warm, it's chilly for the south. We've got those alerts up for folks across Georgia and Florida, and temperatures are dipping into the teens in Nashville, 20s for Montgomery, 40s for Tallahassee. So we're waking up chillier than normal for this time of year, and that 10 to 15 degree temperature kind of trend below where we should be lasts into this afternoon as well. 55 is all you get in Tallahassee today, low 40s for Raleigh, Washington, D.C. You'll be into the 30s. In Boston, you top out at 32. Now, just when you're getting used to the chilly temperatures over the next 2 days across this region, we start to warm up. Some of that more mild air starts to work in from the plains. And guess what, guys? We are back to the 50s in New York City by Monday and Tuesday, 60s for Richmond. I mean, a roller coaster ride when it comes to
But at least for now, you got to go find the scraper. Wherever the scraper is, it's time to get it handy for the rest of the winter.
Especially if you live near the Great Lakes.
Angie Lastman, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.